This episode of the Breakthrough Success Podcast is brought to you by Jobber. Jobber is your business's command center. The easy-to-use app powers your sales, operations, and customer service all in one place. Go check them out at getjobber.com/breakthrough to receive 20% off your first 6 months. What's up, Breakthrough Success listeners? Mark Barry, the Podcasting and Virtual Summit launch coach here. And when it comes to virtual events, I do talk a lot about how you should be doing virtual summits. They are such a great way to expand your business, to make new connections, to grow an audience, even if you're starting with nothing. But one of the things that's been missing is a networking touch online where, yes, you have Facebook groups and things like that, but there's this new trend coming with virtual events, and that is online face-to-face virtual networking events. We have a guest who has created a platform that lets you do just that, and he's going to talk about this new trend and how to leverage it. Our guest is a serial entrepreneur with an 8-figure Amazon business, a mobile agency, and also a $1 million AAR B2B SaaS company, AAR standing for annual recurring revenue. He has over 7 years of experience building remote teams and has worked with Fortune 100 companies such as Nike, Best Buy, TJ Maxx, SunGard, Cardinal Health, and Kaiser Permanente. His new venture is Remote, the next-gen video-first virtual space for event organizers and distributed teams. Our guest who joins us for this episode of Breakthrough Success is none other than Ho-Ying Cheung. Ho-Ying, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Mark. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited.
It is a pleasure to have you on Breakthrough Success. You've definitely done a whole bunch of different ventures. So before we get into the virtual space and how face-to-face is a new way and how people can really embrace that, can you share with us how you've been able to do all these different ventures and just keep on going? Because some people do just do one thing, but you've done several and been successful at a bunch of them.
Yeah, I mean, it's for me, it's just the desire to try to kind of go for the bigger thing, the bigger achievement. I mean, these are the things that I've shown that have had some relative success, but there's others that haven't been successful that usually people don't talk about. But what the point is like those things that don't succeed drive me to kind of do other things that do succeed. And for me, I'm still a small entrepreneur making businesses that are relatively small in scale. And so I'm still learning and trying to make a company that's bigger and attacking much more bigger markets and bigger problems.
I mean, it is within the failures that we grow, and you hear someone's string of successes. There are a lot of failures that do eventually lead to that string of success. One of those successes is Remo, which is his new business, which is that new trendsetter in the virtual event space. So I'm wondering if you could share with us how we can leverage essentially online face-to-face virtual networking, some of the different ways we can incorporate that within our businesses and attract people to the event.
So first off, maybe I should kind of talk about why I created Remo, and then I'll start with like what it is, and then I'll talk about like how to leverage it. So I created Remo because when I have a remote distributed team of about 20 some people, and one of the challenges that I had was, as we live in an increasingly digital age, it's getting more and more difficult to connect with one another. You've got social media fatigue. You've got all these different types of information and online marketing that's just trying to get your attention, which, by the way, a lot of us are starting to get immune to. And the whole concept of social media online is with and memes, and it's just so much distraction that it's sometimes I feel that I get more disconnected from people rather than connected. And we're kind of, instead of we controlling the machine is kind of like controlling us or making us more machine. And so the core of what I'm trying to do is, how do we make our digital lives digital, as it will be increasingly digital, but more human? and more about connecting one another and making those connections, having purposeful conversations that drive purposeful and meaningful relationships. And so we created Remo, and we found that the online space, when it comes to hanging out or networking and meeting others, just like in the offline space, you can't do that online. It's very weird and difficult to use Zoom. The primary case that I explain is like when you're on a Zoom call with 20 people, how many people can speak at the same time, right? We've had GoToMeeting and like Cisco and all these technologies that we've had, webinars and all this stuff for a very long time, but only one person can speak at one time. That's great for meetings, but it's not great for other ways of like how we socialize, like at an offline event right before a speaker goes on or after the speaker. What do? You go, hey, how's it going? You start shaking hands and introducing yourself with a group of people. So we found a way to mimic that offline networking experience online in a natural and authentic way. That's very, very similar to how you meet people in person. And the concept is really, really simple. You have multiple tables from this map, sort of. Each person is like its own little avatar, a little circle with your face on it. And each table is like its own little call, like Skype call, FaceTime call. When you go to that table, you only see the people on that table. When you double click to another table, the video streams will change and will display people only from that table. And you move tables freely on your own liberty. Nobody's controlling you, just like in real life. You just double click on the table and your avatar will move from one table to the next. And so the amazing moment is meeting a bunch of strangers on video call online. We've just made it more natural and just less creepy. You meet a bunch of people and they're from all over the world. You say, hi, nice to meet you, blah, blah, blah. Conversation goes. You say, hey, can I get your note? Can I get your email? Whatever. You swap contacts and then say, hey, I'm going to pop over to this other table. You double click, you get up and you move to this other table. You meet 5 other people from 5 other different places all over the world. But you chose that table. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, the concept is really amazing. I mean, it does, it simulates what would happen at an actual networking event. And I'm just thinking from a virtual summit standpoint, this is a great way to get attendees to know each other and builds more excitement for a virtual summit. What have you seen different businesses do to leverage Remo to better, get attendance and nail things like that?
So virtual summits use our product. They use it in a variety of different ways. Number one is use it as a pre-networking event before the virtual summit. That's one way. So for example, you have premium pass holders, right, that pay extra. They can meet speakers. They can just meet each other, just a small group of people that maybe are for a specific niche. So it's just plain networking. The second way is they have speakers, because when you attend a virtual summit, sometimes it's like you're just attending a recorded, you just attend one recording after the other, right? You're not talking to anyone. It's just like a solo, like you're just sitting here by yourself and just like watching them, which is cool. But what sometimes people do is they'll take one of the speakers and they'll say, hey, we're gonna do a special Q&A with the speaker live. They have one event, the speaker comes, maybe multiple. The value for the speaker is that they get to interact, sell, do the thing they need to do to get exposure, and people can actually meet the speaker and have a much more deeper interaction. And that context of meeting the speaker afterwards leads into natural conversations. People will just start, after I speak to the speaker, I go talk to someone else. And you're connecting with other industry peers, just like you would if you went to an actual conference, which, by the way, is what many people go. Many people go to offline conferences. The main reason is to network with their industry peers. So you can meet others. Some people use it to actually deliver content live, so like a live webinar. But the difference between us and other webinar tools is before and after the webinar, you get networking time. So people come with a purpose. They're here to learn. You're here to learn, so you come to learn. But the side benefit is I get to network with people about that topic and share and swap stories and get all that insider info that you really want. Like you want what's the inside, what do people don't say, right? You want to get the inside information. And this is opportunity to get that. And meet collaborators, meet people that, we have people that basically get business, meet partnerships, collaborations, recruit through our platform. There's a lot of other use cases, like people have hosted recruiting fairs. People have hosted events where you match podcasters, hosts with speakers. They put them together in one room and then they kind of like just meet each other. We've had speed networking where we have a timer and people just kind of network with each other. And workshops as well, and breakout sessions and stuff. So there's a few ways you can use Remo.
We have more great content coming up in this episode, but first we have a message from today's sponsor, Jobber. Jobber's award-winning software helps small home service businesses organize their entire operations, from scheduling jobs and managing their crews to invoicing customers and collecting payments. That way, you can spend more time on the services you're already great at. Job by job, business by business, Jobber is transforming the ways their customers deliver service. Start your free trial over at getjobber.com/breakthrough. All right, let's get right back into the episode.
And I mean, I know about the networking piece. You mentioned like you can turn it briefly into a webinar style where people who are at the tables listen to the speaker.
Yeah, that's right. So the admin can click on a button and it just becomes like a traditional webinar. There's a big screen with the person, and on the other side, it's like chat with Q&A that you can ask questions. So it looks like a classic webinar view. The only difference is that you basically seamlessly go from the tables to the webinar and then back to the tables when the webinar is finished.
Well, that's fascinating because, you know, you do want to be able to get the attention of the room. And that is something that the people who like, you know, plan the event and the speakers definitely want to do to be able to share a message. So that's definitely a really great feature. I mean, has this like taken off like really quickly, or was there like some initial learning curve, some momentum building you had to do first to get people to recognize the concept?
There is. I mean, and I'm still learning, and it's difficult to explain this experience. I almost want to like show you the space. Like I almost want to share a screen to kind of show you, but I don't know if that's something you can do. But not on a podcast, but I wish I could do that. But yes, the answer is yes. We had to do a lot of building. There's a lot of education. There is a lot of stuff that we need to do to educate people, because people just don't understand what in-person face-to-face video looks like. FaceTime, like people still don't know what that means. When they think of like webinar, they're like, oh, I just sit at home and I don't need to turn on my camera. That's what typically people think. So it has taken some time. It is now picking up. We're getting a lot of virtual summit hosts. We are have an integration with some virtual summit softwares like Hey Summit that's about to launch. We are integrating with Zapier soon, some of the integrations to kind of make the marketing a lot easier. And so it's taking some time for sure. And we're building a course right now to teach people how to use Remo within their virtual summits. That's
really smart. I mean, you can definitely see the build up, and you can understand why Honian has had all this different success with a variety of businesses, including Remo, which is on the rise. When it comes to like planning, like, you know, what is Remo's like next step? Because, you know, you heard Zapier, you heard online course, but there's a lot of ideas you don't hear also. So how do you pick between what's the ideas that are going to move us forward and which ideas
sound good, but we should cast them to the side or not do them right now?
So so my goal right now is really twofold. One is like I need a lot of attendees. I want more attendees. And I need more hosts. I need more event organizers. So right now my focus is how do I make the onboarding of the event organizer as good as possible? And right now, the event organizer, if you remember, like when webinars first started, I don't know if you remember, but people didn't know what it was. Like it was like they don't understand, and so there was like a lot of education, and we're like at that point. So education has become a really big part of what we do, and creating that course is what it is. Ideas that don't really move the needle so much are basically things that aren't really getting us those hosts. So like we've tried a lot of things, actually. We've tried a lot of things that did not work. And those, like, for example, like we would go into Facebook groups and we try to talk to the Facebook group owners. That didn't work. We would talk to like offline events owners and say, hey, you should do this. You're an offline event organizer. You should do it online. And we realized that people that do offline events, they just care about offline. They're not thinking online. The only common word is events. And that is not common at all. Like just because there's an event in it, one's offline, one's online, it doesn't mean that they're going to be like, oh yeah, we should do online event. No, it does not. It does not mean anything like that. So we had to change it and say, okay, only should focus on people who are really interested in doing online, who've already started doing online. So that's how we started to like kind of narrow it down to a certain subsegment of people. And people that like networking. We talked to a lot of people, and some people may not care about the networking. And those are the people that we realized are people that maybe is not a good use of our time. I mean, we should tackle those people later.
And it's a good point to make these kinds of distinctions, because I can understand why an offline event would only care about offline, because these are offline, you make a big investment. I know offline events where people make 7 figures just from that single event. So there are people who are less likely to, tweak the system too much because they have it refined and they have it already working. But
right.
I mean, I'm looking at this as a virtual summit host. So I definitely see more possibilities since my whole event structure is online. So
that's right.
Definitely an option if you are doing a virtual summit, or even just want to dabble a little in the online event space, which is definitely very fascinating. For people who want to keep up with Ho Ying, I'm going to include Remo in the show notes. If you can share with us that link and any other places you want us to follow your work and journey, that would be amazing.
Great. Thank you so much. Thanks.
Well, it's definitely a pleasure to have you on Breakthrough Success. Link again will be in the show notes, but I mean, I definitely love your software and the concept, and I hope you have a lot of success with it.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me.
This episode of the Breakthrough Success Podcast was brought to you by Jobber. Jobber is your business's command center. The easy-to-use app powers your sales, operations, and customer service all in one place. Start a free trial or sign up today to receive 20% off your first 6 months. Find out more at getjobber.com/breakthrough.